So part three is going to be discussing federal law that have been passed over the years that have directly or indirectly affected physical education. The first that I'm going to discuss is Title IX, Equal Opportunity for the Sexes. And Title IX of the Educational Amendments Act of 1972 significantly affected most secondary school and college programs. It had less effect on elementary school physical education because most of the programs at this level have long been co-ed. What Title IX states is it rules out separation of sexes and requires all offerings to be co-ed. The law is based on the principle that school activities and programs are of equal value for both sexes and that students should not be denied access to participation on the basis of gender. So the legal ramifications of Title IX have forced schools to provide equal access to physical education programs as well as sports programs. Organizing separate competitions for the sexes is allowed, provided that mixed participation in activities could be hazardous, but in principle the law also dictates that most qualified teachers, especially or regardless of gender, provides the instruction. So basically Title IX was trying to eliminate sexism and sex role typing, and it allowed for segregating children by sex in elementary school physical classes is indefensible. They say it because it eliminates the opportunity for children to learn at an early age that gender differences are negligible when it comes to the desire to perform well athletically. So our next law was the Child and Nutrition Act. Public Law 94-142. This is the Equal Rights for Students with Disabilities. This law mandates that all youngsters have the right to a free and public education and must be educated in the least restrictive educational environment as possible. There are over 4 million children in the U.S. with disabilities, and the term mainstreaming is used to identify the placement of children within a classroom of able children. Individualized education program, the IEP, helps make education more personal and individual for those students with disabilities. We'll have a discussion in Chapter 7 about children with disabilities, and so that we'll go into more detail about that. Here's an example of a Title IX gym locker room. For example, when I was playing college sports, we had the women's athletes had no idea that especially the basketball team had such plush. This is not my school particularly, this image, but we had bare bones, open concept, concrete floors, open shower stalls, where we had a tour of the men's program, and they had carpeting. They had each mirror for there with lit up with their names on the locker rooms and benches, and it was definitely an eye-opening experience. It's come a long ways. There have been pros and cons on Title IX. We'll talk about that in class. The Child Nutrition and WIC Act of 2004, this was federally funded schools to implement a wellness program. This allowed for before school, during lunch, and after school meals for children. They talked about the healthy lunch meals. I think Michelle Obama did a good job of getting that foremost into the schools, allowing not just meals but healthy meals. Because the number of overweight Americans have grown rapidly since 1990. This statistic, over 60% of Americans are overweight, that's actually 69, almost 70% of Americans are overweight or obese. Basically, a decrease in physical activity and an increase in calories are the main culprit. Sadly, these great lunch programs were a great idea, but a lot of times, more often than not, they were throwing away the healthy and keeping the goodies. All right, a nationwide concern. This is contemporary social influences on the evolution of physical education. So these influences that I'm going to be discussing briefly and approaches were well-meaning, but it didn't always have the students' best interests in mind. So this nationwide concern for health and wellness, basically the Surgeon General, he came up with a report on physical activity and health. This was started back in 1996. It clearly outlined the benefits of physical activity for all ages, So eating wisely, controlling weight, dealing with tension and understanding, etc. It incorporated wellness and the concepts in health and wellness, and it's all a part of the good physical education program now. All right. This demand for back to basics schools, this approach results in kind of an inferior PE program and does little to give students a well-rounded education. What happened is that there was a big push to keep the 3 R's, the reading, writing, arithmetic, at the forefront. In fact, during this time, if a school administrator came into the classroom and saw that a teacher was doing a music or art or something that wasn't reading or writing or arithmetic, they could get potentially fired. That was that strict. But basically they either cut programs for PE and art. It was not included in the physical education was not included in the National at Risk report. So was this deliberate or not? The attitude shows that all the more reason for the importance of educating the public, parents and teachers and administrators about the need for a quality physical education program to develop a well-rounded child. So continuing on this national focus, this was the document entitled Healthy People 2000. We just came out with the Healthy People 2020, and we have basically it was a document that the National Health Promotion and Disease Objectives, they focused on the role of physical activity improving the health of all Americans. And there were 300 target goals specifically directed towards improving the health status of U.S. children and youth. After this one came the Healthy People 2010, and then now we have the Healthy People 2020. And let me go back to that real quick. That document released the 2 major goals. It's to increase years of healthy life and try to eliminate health disparities. So that was that document. They were trying to promote that. The current status of physical education in the United States, it's rampant. Obesity and hypokinetic disease has become rampant through the U.S. Percentage of overweight youth has tripled since the 70s. A lot of states allow exemptions from PE. I'm curious to find out about some of you. Did you get a waiver? Did you opt out of PE? Were you able to opt out of PE? Really only about 8% of elementary schools provide daily PE for their students, and it's often taught by teachers that aren't certified. That's why we want our classroom teachers to be able to understand what a quality PE program looks like in case your school doesn't have a special pull-out PE teacher. You'll be able to help those students understand what is involved in a good quality program. PE is limited also to only maybe 30 or 60 minutes per week, where state legislation mandated 120 minutes, but they couldn't enforce it. This amounts only 2 to 4% of total instruction time. So it's not detracting from the total curriculum or from other academics. So it's kind of sad. The need for physical education, elementary school children, okay, ages 2 to 12, watch at least 24 hours of TV or are on their smart device during the week. It's probably much higher than that now. Children watching less than 2 hours per day had lower body fat, and bottom line, to decrease body fat, you want to decrease inactivity or being sedentary and increase your light to moderate physical activity. And it doesn't have to be regimented or like calisthenics. Make it fun. How can you have your children, your students, enjoy physical activity? That might be up to you to teach them that. Evidence shows the benefits of a quality education program. Number 1, 30 minutes PE class can offer 12 to 2,000 steps of moderate to vigorous physical activity to counterattack the effects of an inactive day after sitting in front of their laptops all day. A positive experience in PE classes will encourage children to be active as adults. Overweight children grow into overweight adults. Statistics show that. It's a good indicator of adult obesity. A quality PE program educates children physically. it does not detract academically. In fact, there's been research that proves that being active helps improve an individual's academics and concentration. PE gives students the skills they need to be active adults. Physical activity provides immediate and short-term health benefits for children. It will reduce blood pressure, it improves blood lipid profile. You've heard maybe that diabetes, adult onset diabetes, is more rampant now in teenagers than ever. Active children will more likely become active adults. This next part will be the framework, and we'll talk about the national standards, and that will be part 4.